everyone, and welcome to our Home Care is Here webinar. My name is Brendan Trelarkin. Some of you may know me, others may not, but I am your host for this afternoon. I look forward to taking you through a little bit about our home care solution and also what it means to be a foundation client as well. So really looking forward to the session today, and thank you so much for joining. A couple of housekeeping matters before we get into the webinar itself. First and foremost, this webinar is being recorded, so if you have to jump out, leave, or would like to share it with others later, don't worry, we will email you a copy at the end of this, along with some other supporting material via email. You'll also notice that there is a chat function in this Zoom call, so if you're experiencing any technical difficulties or anything like that, feel free to chat away in that feature, and our team behind the scenes will be able to assist. And last but not least, this is designed to be a Q&A session as well. So if you have any questions along the way, feel free to type that into the Q&A box. I'll get to those at the end, depending on how many we get through. I'll try and answer as many at the end of the session. If we do run out of a little bit of time, don't worry, we'll get to your questions and respond to those in an email response following the session as well. A bit of an agenda today. I want to introduce, like I said, not only what is our home care solution, but importantly focusing on the areas of content that we have specifically built to ensure that we are providing bespoke material for the home care environment, talking about how we deliver that across our framework that I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with, our policy, learning, assurance, and reporting framework, that PLAR framework. Then I'm going to dive into a short little system demo, intentionally keeping it high level for today, and specifically focusing on content. So I'll be diving into the policy portal specifically to show you that. And then, as I mentioned earlier, I'd like to share a little bit about what it means to be a foundation client. And if you are interested in exploring that further, some of the benefits of being that and the process involved. And then, like I said, to close things off, a bit of a Q&A session at the very end. So as I mentioned, we have prided ourselves quite significantly over the years in delivering specific content for our specific industries, not just generalized content not relevant to you and not relevant to the industries that you work in. And this is no different when we talk about our new home care solution. As you would be familiar, our residential aged care solution is designed specifically for the aged care environment. And we didn't just want to copy and paste and imagine that would be the same for home care. So that's why we went away and spent a significant amount of time and effort to build a bespoke home care package, ensuring that we're delivering policy modules specifically suited to the environment that you're servicing your customers and clients in, and also the environment that your staff members are working in. And then how do we then convert those policy modules into learning courses, so then you can assign those learning courses to your staff members so they are aware of their obligations specific to their home care role. And then obviously in our assurance platform, how we can bring those policies to life in our assurance tool with those specific forms, with those specific registers, and with that specific reporting, so that you can then prove and demonstrate that you are compliant, not just against the quality standards. Of course, you need to do that, and as you all are aware, same quality standards for residential home care, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't still focus on the nuances and the differences between the home care data that you must capture and the way you must capture and report on it. So really important that we emphasize that as well. Talking about those specific policy modules that we've tried to focus on to make relevant for the home care space, these 5 modules that you see on your screen now represent those. You'll notice that not only are we referencing the areas of content, but mapping those to those quality standards. And I know we've heard that these quality standards are due to be changing too, but that being part of our service, we will update and maintain all of that information for you. That doesn't change. The same service that you experience now with your residential aged care solution, the updating and maintaining of your content, the use of our knowledge and service teams and the value of our systems all remains the same. What we're doing now is we're now providing you the home care specific content. There's a couple of policies that I'll show you later when I jump into the demonstration that I'll pull out of these content modules that we've built specific for the home care space, so you can sort of sense the difference of the tone and the language and the environmental structure, that the way we've drafted these policies. So I will show you that when I dive into that quick little demo at the end as well. Onto some of those learning courses that we've introduced, and please note that this is just the starting point for us. We are looking to expand, and as we have done with our residential solution over the time we've been in the space, but this is the additional learning courses that we've added to our library at the moment for home care. Same with residential, our service that we build a lot of content ourselves through our content team. But then we also deliver training through our trusted content partners that we've got the confidence that they are delivering the material that we need and that you need to meet your obligations from a training and educational perspective. Okay, again, you'll notice some similarities and the correspondence to the policy content modules that we're delivering in the policy portal as well. Last but not least, that assurance tool. And this is, like I said earlier, how we bring this to life. So for you, obviously, having a residential aged care service in place at the moment, in your assurance system, you will still be able to monitor all of the residential aged care data and reporting that you're capturing there. But what we do with the service now is that we now switch on the functionality in the assurance platform to also house and capture your home care specific content. So for you in this call that are executive members, managers that want to compare how you're performing in the home care space to residential, if you'd like to have that visibility on how data is being captured across your residential and your home care services, you as an executive user and a full user in the assurance system will be able to compare in that one system. However, the way we structure our assurance tool being an enterprise tool is that then for your home care staff, when they log in or whenever they submit a form, it specifically filters through to the home care section. So you don't have to double handle data. You don't have to be reporting across two different sections. This is one enterprise tool where you can get that holistic view across your whole organization, across your different services of care. But then you can also break down the different services of care and compare or separate if you need to. Important to mention that I'm sure you've probably got some forms that you've created for the home care space. Great, you can use those in this assurance system, but we've also built home care specific forms, risks, hazards, registers, reports, frameworks. So similar to the residential service, we are providing you the content, not requiring you to draft all of this from scratch. As I mentioned, I'm just going to jump into a short system demonstration, specifically focusing on the policy portal, as I really want to emphasize how we've created those individual or specific policies to be relevant to that home care environment for your staff and for your clients and customers. So obviously what you see on your screen now is a demo site, but in the same nature as we've set up your residential aged care service, we will create a tailored and contextualized home care child site for you as well. Now I emphasize the term child site because, again, how we would structure this is if I was a home care staff member logging in, I would log in and I would only see the home care policies and procedures. For your residential staff that log in, they will remain to see the residential aged care content. And then for executive members or for manager users, like I'm sure most of you on the call are now, when you log in, you will get that executive and enterprise view where you can see all of the residential and all of the home care policies centrally in that one enterprise site. So you can still control, review and approve our changes that we've published to you, all from your central enterprise site. And then when you make those changes or when you approve those changes, it will filter down to either the home care or the residential child site, or both if there's commonalities. Okay. as I mentioned, I'm going to use a couple of examples here to emphasize the points that I've discussed already. Let's take the example of our consumer care services module, for instance. I'm not going to dwell on the technology because I'm sure you're all very familiar with this. I'm just going to navigate down to a particular policy or procedure to give you an idea of, again, how we draft the material, how we deliver the home care specific content. I've used the example of death of a consumer for today. You can see, clicked on the policy, opens up the policy. Same structure as what you'd be familiar with, where we reference the source of obligation at the very top. We then flow through to the policy statement and to the key definitions. But importantly, and where you'll see a chunk of changes here specific to the home care space is when we then get into the procedure, the processes, the guidelines. This is now where we're providing these procedures, these guidelines to advise your home care staff members exactly what they need to do, how they need to do it, when they need to do it, all of that important information. Okay, you'll notice the hyperlinks still remain in the policy. That doesn't change. That's the same as how we've done it with residential care. The structure is very much staying the same here, just the content that is changing. Again, down the bottom, all of your external references and resources provided by us, and the opportunity to link in any related forms and documents as well. Confirming we will update and maintain this material for you as and when it's affected by any change in legislation, any change in best practice. Another example of a policy that I can show you, something under consumer support services. Once again, same process. You can come into any one of these areas of policy and it will display a specific policy area for you to navigate through to. Again, I'm sure you'll notice the differences there just even by looking at some of the headings and some of the terminology used. For instance, let's jump into care services, policy and procedure. That will redirect me shortly to that policy. Again, clever use of the hyperlinks, especially when linking to things such as your home care agreement, hyperlinking to the care services plan, individualized packages, all those sorts of things we can hyperlink in here. So everything's just a click away. You'll notice a very unique policy and specific policy to home care here. Again, conscious of diving into too much detail in what is designed to be a short webinar today, I'm going to leave the system demonstration there for today. But like I said, please feel free to reach out. I'm more than happy to organise a more detailed dive for any of you in your own session directly with me or one of my colleagues, where we can go into a little bit more detail on the content, and also when we've got a bit more time into the learning and assurance tools. But like I said, intentionally today, with it being a short webinar, just going to jump back to my slide deck, where I wanted to quickly walk you through this phrase or term that you may have heard me mention now or in another time, of a foundation client, and what's sort of involved in becoming a foundation client with us here at CompliSpace. Essentially, with us creating this new home care tool, we understand that we want to learn from the people that are on your side of the fence. We've built this with our expert content team, our expert aged care team, and a whole bunch of other experts in other service areas. But like I said, we feel like you know your side the best and what it's like to work in your environment. So we'd love to get your feedback. We'd love to get your suggestions on the product, especially it being in this early stage. So with being a foundation client, we like to work with you, with a whole bunch of others that are in the foundation client project already, to collate as much data and as information as we can, pull that together, analyze it as best as we can with our user experience team, with our analytical team, so we can then highlight the priority areas that have been flagged by multiple individuals, multiple organizations that you'd like to see improve, change, added, whatever it may be. Us take that away then go and build and make those adjustments. And obviously conscious of the size of the suggestion made, sometimes this can take a couple of weeks, a couple of months. But the point is that we're here to listen to you. We're here to take in your feedback so we can make this solution as best as we can for the people that matter, and that's you working in the space. Okay, we've done this with a lot of our other products. We've done it with the residential aged care tool as well that we've built and has now been established in the space for quite a long time now. And we've noticed that this has allowed us to deliver a better solution in the long term, making our clients happy and making sure that you have the peace of mind that you've got a tool that you're comfortable in using. Okay, again, to expand on that further, we've got some other nuances involved in the foundation client process in terms of bringing together different focus groups and ways we can roll out the solution to you to test and to try. So if you are interested in that, again, please reach out. We will be sharing a link, essentially an interest form if you'd like to submit your details, and then we can come back to you with a bit more detail on how to actually begin that process of becoming a foundation client. So as I mentioned, the last little bit that we wanted to spend some time on in today's session is a bit of a Q&A. So I've unshared my screen just so I can bring up the Q&A log in front of me now. And I noticed that there's been a fair few questions coming through, so thank you for sending those through. I am conscious that we have sort of reached close to time, so I may not be able to get to all questions today, but I will get to a couple. One question that has popped up here just through a couple of ways of wording is, how does the additional users work in the assurance platform? That's a really good question. So a benefit of our home care solution is if you are a single residential aged care facility at the moment and you haven't got unlimited assurance users, the great thing is that when you do jump across to our home care package, at the moment we are upgrading you to unlimited assurance users. So you do have the benefit of having a larger amount of full users in the assurance platform to manage content, data, and reports across your residential and your home care service centrally in that enterprise structure. So yes, that is something that you will receive there. Another question that I have been asked is in the Q&A section here is, what about policy content that is similar for residential and home care? Another really good question. This is where that policy enterprise site really comes into play. And that's what I mentioned earlier in the demonstration, where at that enterprise level, if there is a similar policy area, for instance, your enterprise risk management program with us or your work health and safety program with us, this is going to be pretty much the same for your residential and your home care. So instead of us duplicating that module at the enterprise level, you have the one enterprise risk management policy or the one enterprise or the one work health and safety module. And when that is updated by us due to a change in legislation or best practice, that will populate that change down to the 2 child sites for your residential child site and your home care child site. So there is no duplication of effort, work, or content when talking about a policy area that is specific to both residential and home care. So like I said, I know we've reached time. There's a couple of other questions that that have come through. Leave those with us. We'll respond to those and we will provide our responses back as part of our communication following this webinar today. Again, thank you so much for your time in joining. I hope it was a useful session. As mentioned, we will be sending out a communication to everyone with the recording, with some resources, and with that form if you are interested in finding out a little bit more about becoming a foundation client and also the process of, in fact, becoming a foundation client. So again, thank you so much for your time and take care.